Welcome, Tamrah Barber. And I know we have few other participants. This is Aditi Verma. Today, we have Tamrah Barber to talk to us about our teenagers. A little bit about her. Tamrah is a happily married wife and mother of 5 wonderful children. She's an ICF professional certified coach. She's a passionate business owner, a transformational leader, teen interventionist, and an empowering motivational speaker. Tamrah has over 20 years of experience developing different youth programs, as well as in information technology and business development. She has over 1,500 hours of coaching experience. By leveraging her professional and life experience, Tamrah is committed to giving back to the youths in the community. Tamrah is also the president and founder of Extreme Teen Leaders LLC, through which she offers the XTL 360 Teen Leadership Program that helps teens reach their full potential by building emotional intelligence, personal effectiveness, communication, and life skills. Additionally, Extreme Teen Leaders also offer other programs in the areas of sports, arts, and education. So welcome, Tamrah. We are so happy to have you.
Thank you.
Tell us a little bit about how did you decide and what motivated you to get into this, giving back to the youths and supporting the teens?
Yeah, I think it stemmed from my children, my own children, and really wanting to have them involved in quality programs. And it was a little challenging finding programs for them. Mm-hmm. And there were always pieces here and pieces there. And so what I decided to do was start creating programs for them and their friends. And so it just kind of spiraled out of that. I've always had one kid in every school system, whether it's, high school, middle school, elementary school, one of them were always in one of those areas. And so I ended up, creating programs for them, and they just invited their friends, and I became the cool mom. And I was a little strict. I was a little strict. I didn't let my kids go and spend, weekends or time at a lot of other people's house because I just didn't know them. But I more than, opened my house to them and their friends. And so it became the place for kids to hang out. And so I just didn't want them laying around. So I just created things for them to do. So I've been creating programs for a very long time.
So when they came over to your house, you were busy.
Yes.
So that's actually great. And I wanted to tell our audience that, we are going to focus a lot on communication today because, that's the big thing through your program that, you communicate it effectively. But with a special focus on 2 areas, which is how to communicate with your child when they're going through hormonal changes and how to handle, dating in that aspect of that area, how to handle that communication, or how, even for a parent, myself coming from a conservative side, some of these things are hard to communicate with your children. Yes. So, before we dive into the specifics, just to sort of teens, I have a 7-year-old and a 2-year-old. So I'm not there yet, but I've talked to a lot of parents. I think I'll be very much prepared because now I have you and
the groundwork starts now.
Questions, right? So I'll learn from them. And I've talked to parents. I've even talked to teenagers, and it seems like the disconnect is much bigger as the kids grow. And parents say they just stop talking. They don't talk to them as much. Some parents have a good relationship versus the others. So my big question is, how do you help the teenagers to open up, to communicate? How can we do that? How can
So the biggest thing is to know that you get to go first. Mm-hmm. If you want to communicate, if you want your child to communicate with you, you have to be open and communicate with them because you're modeling the behavior at all times that you want to see them, create in their lives. And so it starts with us being open and talking with them, sharing our experiences with them so that they can learn. Sometimes they just listen, and sometimes they'll go into dialogue, and it's just like planting seeds along the way. Yeah. And so then when something comes up in their life, they'll remember the conversation that they had with you, and perhaps you'll be the one that they come to when they come across those challenges in their life, instead of their friends who have no experience, you know?
Right. So don't shy away from sharing your experience. Don't
Absolutely.
shy away from telling them, instead of saying, do this, maybe make it a story of what happened to you.
Absolutely. Stories always work. They're interesting, even as adults, right? When you go to hear someone speak, you love to hear their stories. That's what
That's,
grabs you. They often even open their presentations with a story, right?
yes,
We love
yes,
stories, and so do kids. You know, they're raised on telling stories.
yes,
You know,
yes. They do, they
teachers,
do.
yeah, teachers read them stories all the time.
You know, that's one thing. Like with my son, although he's 7 years old, he has some anxiety of going somewhere. And once what I did is I told him, made up a story, said I was invited and I did not know anybody and I was so scared. But then I told myself, you know what, I'm going to try. And I went and I talked to this one lady, and then everyone was very nice. I talked to a few people and I made some new friends. And I kind of, you know, this is much simpler version, but I made it longer and I really described my feelings, how worried and scared I was, and then what I did to overcome that. And it seemed to have worked much better than telling him that it's okay, you do not have to be scared, you can try this. You know, he was so intrigued and he's like, this is what happened, Mama? And then you had the friends, Mama? And then, and this is a 7-year-old.
Awesome.
I don't know, in teenagers, you know, just being open and describing your feelings and fears might also help them. Is that's what I'm hearing that you're saying, that be open.
Absolutely. You get to go first.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah.
And I was talking to you and you were also saying about the support for teenagers. They don't really have as much support.
Yeah.
You know, can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. In my experience, what I've noticed, and as I said, I've had, you know, kids in every age bracket.
Mm-hmm.
And what I noticed along the journey with each of them, I coach sports a lot. And so what I would see is when they were younger, the stands were full of parents, like everywhere, cheering their little ones on. And they're just so adorable, running up and down the court, on the field. And they just look so cute. And everyone is there supporting them and cheering them on. But then as they get to middle school, the crowds get smaller, and to high school and smaller. And so teenagers, they begin to lose that support. And sometimes I think parents just think that they're okay and they're older now and they don't want me there. They were there with their friends and they just kind of send them off. I mean, even to the degree now we have parents that are using services that actually pick up their kid and take them to their locations because they're too busy, you know, to actually be present. And so what, you know, even with one of my students, I mean, you would have thought he was like the toughest, coolest kid. And he broke down to me one day and was like, you know, I've played in like so many games and my mom like hasn't been to one game at all.
Wow.
And I was like, wow. And this was like a kid, he was almost a junior or senior in high school. And it really disappointed him that she wasn't there. And so I had a conversation with her and she showed up. She thought that it was okay, that he didn't really need her there. But they really do. They really do want to see your face in the stand. You know, when a big, you know, play happens, to like be able to look over and see their parent there, that means something. And so as teens get older, I've just noticed that parent participation like drops.
So here's the thing, like in some areas, sometimes some teens will say, I don't need you, I don't want you. Don't come there, don't be there. You may need to find a balance that it could be like they don't need you, they don't want you, but it could be that they're saying that, but they really do want you.
Absolutely. How many times do we as adults do that, right? Even with our spouses, you know, they'll ask us something like, no, it's okay, I don't want anything. So what do you want for Valentine's Day? Oh, no, I don't want anything, I'm good. But inside you're like, oh my gosh, I want chocolates, I want a diamond, I want all these things, right? But you're like, oh, no, I don't want anything. Well, kids do the same thing. You know, they really want you there, but again, they're going through their changes and their emotions, especially during that age. And, you know, sometimes they're acting out. They might be upset with you because you didn't let them do what they wanted to do. But in the end, you know, being present really counts. Even if they are, you know, giving off to you that, you know, I don't want you there, I don't care, it doesn't matter. Years down the line, it will matter.
So don't let their attitude get you down.
Absolutely. Be totally neutral. Be neutral to it. Be neutral.
That's so interesting because just recently I heard a story of a mom. Her daughter is, I think, 9 or 10 years old, and she wanted to go to school. She wanted to walk to school, and mom was not ready to let her do the walking all by herself. Parents know their kids, and she was not, it was too much traffic, something she decided no. And daughter told her mom, "You're the worst mom in the world." She was very upset and hurt her feelings, mom's feelings.
Yeah.
My son was in college, and she talked to him, and he told her she was the best mom. And I'm so glad he told her that you were strict with me because I now appreciate it. And he told his sister, and he had a talk with her sister for giving her mom an attitude. And she was crying. She was saying that I felt validated for what I was doing because it was working. When my son said that, it was working. So just like you're saying, that even though kids say things, don't let that get to you. Just be neutral and think about what is the best for your kids and keep.
Absolutely. Yeah, at a young age, it's a manipulation game. They'll say what they need to say. They're not really trying to hurt you. They're trying to get their way.
Yeah.
And when you become neutral to that, and because you've got that experience, especially if you've raised a kid and they're now in college and they're validating you, right? That kind of empowers you more to be firm, right? But I would say be firm regardless, because you've got the experience. You're doing it out of love.
Yes.
And in the end, they'll see it. Just over time, trust me, they'll see it.
Yeah. That's very good to hear. I'm sure for a lot of parents, it's very, feels good. It's that.
And on the same token, we get caught up in being a great parent, right? And when you're parenting out of love, it's always going to work. And you're going to cause your kid heartache, and they're going to go through their changes, no matter how amazing of a parent you are. That's just how it is, right? And so we just, as parents, have got to get to a place where, we're operating out of love. We know what's best for them. That's why we're here, right? If that was the case, you'd be born and there would be no parents.
That's
right?
true.
We're
I think
here
that's
for a
where
reason.
even you are growing, right? Because you have to sometimes make that tough decision of
Absolutely.
what's right, what's wrong, what's the best for my child. I'm going to be the bad guy today, but I'm going to have to do that because that's the best for my child.
That's right.
Sometimes. I just wanted to, I think a bigger changes that I've heard from parents that's happening is when the child is going through hormonal changes. And for girls, it's kind of easier to pinpoint when they get their first, menstruation cycle. And I think in my culture, it's very, I didn't know what it meant because my mom never talked to me about it. But being in this country, I was in India when I was at that age. Being in this country, I want to have an open relationship with my daughter, but because I not have a role model of how to handle it, I want to find out, how can parents or how could I communicate with my child when she is going through that, or when I have an idea that she might be going through that, because her friends might go through that before her, and she learns from them. How do you talk to them about it, and how do you help them handle it?
Yeah, just be open. And I always say this. There are two ways to learn. Either you learn what to do from your parents based on what they've modeled for you, or you learn what not to do as a parent based on what they modeled for you. And the very things that were missing, right? What was missing. So you as a parent get to add that for your child. Like I grew up and I didn't have my father there. It was just my mom, and she worked all the time. And so there was a lot missing there. And so as a parent, I recognized what was missing. And as a parent, I added that with my children and made sure that those voids were filled, So just trust yourself, really trust yourself, and what is missing and what you want your child to grow up with.
Yes.
And then just communicate. Oftentimes we're so concerned with, looking good for our child, making like we've never had, challenges, we made it all the way through, effortless, this is how you do it, but really they benefit more from you being just vulnerable and authentic with them and communicating in a way that they get it. And that's really an individual thing, because every child is different. So, you know, one parent's communication with their child is going to look very different than another parent's communication with their child. And you just have to trust, you know, you birth them, you raise them from an infant, you know them inside and out. And so use all of that knowledge and then, you know, participating in webinars like this where you can hear from other parents and get ideas and just try it. Just try stuff and find what works for your child.
So even though it's, say, uncomfortable for many parents, they should have an open conversation. I mean, so how would they say, just talk about the process of, you know, what happens, why it happens, you know, and it's normal to, every girl goes through it at different ages, and it's normal. And what does it mean? Like, what does this whole change mean to them?
Absolutely. You know, we used to do what we call a rites of passage. And we would get some women together of all different age brackets, like pull together the grandparents, the mothers, the aunts. And I would surround my daughter with all of them, and we would have a sort of like a luncheon, and we'd make a big deal out of it. And we would teach her about, you know, what's coming up for her, you know, as far as the cycle is concerned, what it means to be a woman, how you take care of yourself, you know, just the hygiene parts of it, you know, of maintaining your cycle and being clean with it. And then, you know, how to deal with the emotional pieces of it from, you know, the changes going on in your body, you know, and so we would just really make it like a celebration and pour into her life. And so that's one idea that I would, you know, give out to all of you to make it an event, you know. And if you don't do that, then you definitely want to pull them aside before it happens. And I always erred on the side of more information. And so when I knew what age I had my cycle when it started, and so I kind of used that as a gauge. And I went like a couple years before that, I started preparing them very much like you do for college, right? We don't wait until senior year to talk about college, right? When they're born, as soon as they can talk, you know, what do you want to be when you grow up? Yes. What college do you want to go to? What are you going to major in? You know, college is important.
Yeah, definitely. You don't want to bombard them.
Yeah, so you prepare them so when they graduate, they already know what the next step is. And it's the very same thing with personal issues such as cycles. You know, and even, you know, for boys, puberty, you know, what does that mean for young men as they're growing? You know, they're experiencing wet dreams is what they call them. I don't know. But really having those conversations so they don't think that something is wrong with them.
Right.
And you don't leave them to figure it out on their own.
Yes. That's a good point, because I think when you have that conversation with your child, even though I think for some parents it might be a little bit hard and odd, and we could share some articles on how to have that conversation with your child, or some you know, some links on that, but I do feel that it just opens up, like the child knows that no matter how awkward it is, I could go to my parent if I need to, you know, like if it just that door is open. Now it's up to them to take advantage of it or not, but at least you as a parent did your duty to open that door for them.
Absolutely, because if you don't do that, whoever the first person is that approaches them, they're going to become the expert, whether they have expertise or not, right? So you want to be the first person that your child goes to, and you do that by creating the space for them to step into, right, and have that discussion. And you've got to be open about it. You've got to be neutral. And when I say neutral, what I mean by that is when your child comes and talks to you about, you know, challenges and things that could possibly like make you angry, right? Like, Mom, you know, I was in school today and, you know, I kissed a boy. They're like, you did what? Oh my, who is this? You know, you just like go in on them. See, when you do that, you immediately throw up the wall. So they'll never come to you again, right? So you want to be neutral.
That's true.
Like, okay, well, what was that experience like, and why did you make that choice? You know, just ask them questions to have them think, because they know, right? They're going through these experiences, and so you don't want to be reactionary, right? You don't want to react.
In fact, that's an opportunity. They came to you. That's a wonderful opportunity to connect with them. Yeah.
Yeah, and you never know. Those conversations could lead into the sexual conversation.
Yeah.
Wow, wow, what was that experience like? Well, we
Yeah.
need to have a conversation. If that is a choice that you made, then I think we need to have a deeper conversation about
Right.
our morals and our values, and what could possibly come into that should you continue to make those
Mm.
types of choices,
Right.
and just really go into a discussion with them, a deeper discussion.
So as far as like say, so that we're coming towards, let's say, dating, right? A little bit
Yes.
leading into it. Um, if a child, so in our culture, there is no dating. And
Right.
I was introduced to the term when I moved to the United States of America. And I was very confused at first. What does that mean? And dating, from what I understand, means you date a person, hang out with them before you decide that you really like them and start going out with them. Right? It's a period to get to know that person, the person that you like, get to know them to see if you really like. But I guess in middle school or even in high school, I don't know how long does that dating even last, because I don't know. I've heard from a parent that, it's a week, that's most, and that's it. They don't get along, or, they just don't have that commitment level.
Right.
So say you're, tween, or, like a child is interested in dating because it's mostly social thing for them. So as a parent, how would you handle it?
Yeah. So I've
For
actually
them
been in, yeah,
versus like, yeah, versus as they get
yeah,
older and
yeah. I've been in that scenario before, actually, with one of my kids,
mm,
and it was actually my youngest son.
okay.
In middle school, he had a girlfriend, and the way that I approach it, and it's gonna vary depending on your family values and the standards that you set for your family. Some parents will be like, okay, there's no dating,
Mm-hmm.
and to what you said, India versus America, here we like to put labels on everything,
Mm-hmm.
and so I try my best to avoid the labels, and so I always made it very clear that we don't date. You have friends,
Okay.
and one day one of those friends is going to become your spouse.
Yeah.
And right now, the best thing for you to do is just have really good friends.
Yeah.
And so I always addressed his girlfriend as his friend. I never said girlfriend.
Mm.
I said, so how is your friend? And whenever they wanted to go out, I would always make sure that it was a group setting. Like, I would not allow my tween to go out on a date one-on-one with someone else. And
Mm.
so either a parent was there or either it was a group of friends.
Okay.
And so I would really avoid, the dating scene, because it's kind of, it's more adult.
Yeah.
And again, it's a label, and it's really just establishing relationships and friendships.
Right.
And so that's one of the things I did, was make a clear distinction between friendship versus dating.
Right.
Number two, I'll be really careful. Sometimes as parents, again, we react and we want to shut it down, right? That never works.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
When you it never
yeah,
works.
if I had not had these conversations, and if my son came up to me today and say that he wants to date, I mean, he's 7 years old, but I'm just envisioning that's how I would have reacted. So
Yeah.
it's good to have this thought process ahead of time for parents. How would you react, like, for different scenarios? And I do agree, like, if I had reacted that way, it would have shut down all the conversations. And I
Yes.
do not want that. I want
Yes.
to come to me, because a lot of times these kids, they go through a lot of pain. Whether they like someone, they cannot talk to the parents. They go through a lot of pain, and they need to talk to someone, because you don't know that other friend that they talk to is giving the right advice, or is a good friend, or what is going on.
Yes.
So it's beneficial to have the patience to listen to them and keep that door open.
Absolutely.
You don't. I agree with you. Totally, it makes sense that you should not react. Sorry, go ahead. That's the second.
Yeah, because when you shut that door, all they do is they still continue to see that person, because they're in school every day. So they're walking through the halls holding hands, and they're doing everything that they're doing in school, and they want to go to the basketball games or the football games. Guess who they're with? That particular person. So you can't stop it, right? You can't shut it down, because it's going to show up somewhere else, and you just will be out of the loop, right? So you want to insert yourself in the middle of that relationship, right? So that you can monitor, you can advise along the way, right? If you shut it down, then you shut yourself out. So rather insert yourself into the relationship and you monitor it very closely. You figure out, okay, where are they going? Who are you going to be with? Are there going to be other friends there? Or is it just the two of you? If it's just the two of you, well, no, I'm not comfortable with that. And you really set the parameters that you're comfortable with in them having relationships, right? So I would not allow my son to go over to a girl's house, right? And if he's involved with someone, right, in a relationship and they're friends, then I'm going to know their parents. Matter of fact, I'm going to call their parents and we're going to have a conversation so that we're all on the same page. And we're going to work with them to set the parameters for them. You will not be on the phone talking all night long. Your grades are first and priority. And, they'll get to see each other, but it'll just be, again, monitored, and the two parents will be coordinating. We can't leave it up to them to coordinate it because then they'll just go off the deep end. So you want to insert yourself into the relationship and set the parameters. And then you want to have the discussion about trust, right? I made it very clear, that I trusted you and that these are things that will break my trust. And when you break my trust, then you lose all privileges. And so they didn't want to lose the privileges, so they were very open and they, told the truth for the most part that I know of, right? Yeah, and so you want to make sure that they understand trust, and when they break trust, there's consequences for that.
You need to have a set of rules that everyone, your child's friend, and your child's friend's parents, they all agree to. That way they have consistency and everyone's on the same boat. So that's a great idea. I'm sorry, I was going to dive into one of the questions that one of the parents had asked, but if you have anything else to add to this, let's finish that. So maybe in the college time, so this is for the kids, but as they get older, as they go to the college, you can't really control much of the things there. So what advice would you give to your child?
So when you said your children were young, I was like, awesome. This is a great time to pour all that you can into them, because once they reach 17, 18 years old, they're already equipped. They've learned everything that you can teach them, and then they go off to college. But one thing I did before they went off to college, when they were in 11th and 12th grade, I pretty much stepped back. And I allowed them some freedoms to make decisions on their own, so that I could monitor them before they went off to college.
Right.
Especially in their senior year, I just totally stepped back and I watched how they operate. And I would acknowledge them when they were making great decisions, and I would pull them to the side and be like, hey, I see that you're making these decisions, and I'm going to tell you this is what's going to happen. This is what's down the line if you continue on this path. And you give them the information to make the decision, and you just kind of it's more like coaching. In junior and senior year, you're coaching, right? And you've got 2 years to coach them before they're out there on their own. And then when they get out there on their own, you just check in. You're checking in. So that would be my advice to parents, to make sure that you don't control everything all the way up through the 12th grade, because when you release them, you have no idea what they're doing on the other side when they go off to college.
That's a great advice. In fact, just stepping back, and just like you prepare for the college, preparing for the college is not about just picking the college and studying in college and all this, but also about how you will behave. These are the challenges. And to do that, they need some practice, and that's what
absolutely
11th and 12th grade, you step back and you have them that practice. So that's
you stop washing their clothes. You stop, cooking full dinners for them every single night. You allow them to, create meals for themselves. Like on Friday and Saturday, I don't cook. Unless it's for my younger kid, I'll cook something for him. But he's 15 now, so even for him now, I'm like, okay, there's pizzas in the freezer. There's some other leftovers in there. You get to fix your meal.
That's a great idea.
When they go to college, they're gonna be doing that.
To be a laundry.
Yeah, their laundry. He has his own laundry baskets in the laundry room, and he gets to wash his own clothes.
Yeah.
Things that he's
So
gonna
they
have to
can
do
do
on his.
it like in college. They have to wash their clothes. They have to figure out what they're going to eat. So
That's right.
that's a definitely a very good idea.
They've got to manage their time. They've got to create income,
Yeah.
and so I give them that experience before they leave, so it's not such a shocker when they get out there. Because I'll tell you, plenty of students in college have no clue how to live day to day. They have no life skills. Very difficult. Because schools don't teach them that.
Yeah. Yes, that's true. That's true.
Yeah.
And a lot of times they become very homesick because it's just such a big.
And and that's what happens. They bring all their laundry home to you so you can continue to wash it.
Yeah. I've seen some of those cases. Yeah, I've heard of some.
Yeah, they'll come home and have you cooking dinner for them so that they can bring it back to school and don't have to.
Yeah, I mean, my mom, when my mother comes home, she still cooks a lot for him so he can take it back. But my brother does, it's very different in our culture. Boys, very rarely boys are cooking. I think
and it varies from culture to culture.
But I guess besides cooking, though, there are other things. Cooking is one of those things that can get tricky, which parents are hard to let go. They just want to provide that extra support. But there are other things like doing your own laundry, doing your own things. Those things you can be independent on.
Yeah, and be careful of the culture differences, because if they're being raised in America and they marry an American wife, it's going to cause issues.
That's true.
In America, in some cultures, that's not how it is.
Yeah.
And so it's going to cause some
stress. As a parent, you kind of have to also train them then.
So I mean, train the best of both worlds, right? Because there's beauty in your culture, right? And why you operate that way. There's beauty in that.
Right.
And I even think that sometimes in America we've lost a lot of that. So but prepare them both ways.
That's true.
So that he can cook dinner and teach him how to cook his authentic cuisine. And then you get to share it with them too and cook it for them. Sometimes that's just the way that we like to give to our kids, right?
So that's true. When my brother was here, my mom did, and he had to go to Poland, and it was tough because there was no one to come home to.
Absolutely,
He came back from Poland, and he made me a pasta. It's like, I learned this from Poland. Let me show it for you.
Absolutely, yeah, it's awesome. But truth be told, no one makes it like mom or grandma.
That's true. That's true. So I want to take a moment to move over to some of the questions that our listeners had asked.
Okay.
So this first question is from a parent of a 13-year-old boy. So the parent is saying that these days, kids are taught about pros and cons of pregnancy in school. And she asked me on behalf of this child's parents who started watching such videos on this topic, and parents are having tough time stopping him from watching. Some videos are graphic, about labor, etc. And they did block the internet for like a month, but that didn't really stop him, because once it was started, you can also access it on the phone. Once the internet was back on, he was caught watching it. They just don't know how to help him stop. So the question is, do you have any ideas or help on how to handle this issue?
Yeah, so this is another one of those areas, and I would love to talk to them more, because I don't know that I can. It's difficult to answer without having the person there and really kind of coaching them through it.
Okay.
But initially, I think what I would consider is, again, not shutting it down, but kind of inserting myself in there and exploring to find out, what is the attraction to this? Does he want to be a gynecologist? Is he interested in delivering babies? Is it something more sexual?
Right.
With the body parts.
Right.
And intrigued of the body parts and how a woman's body can stretch and, contract. It's just, there's so much there.
Okay.
I would have the parent really pinpoint, like, what is the draw? Like, what is it about pregnancy and a delivery that intrigues you? Because they really could be right on the brink of creating a gynecologist.
That's true.
And if you shut it down, you shut down a child's desire to explore and to learn. Right? So you really want to jump in there, as uncomfortable as it may be, You want to jump in there with your child and maybe watch it with them and say, okay, so what is so intriguing about that? And really, talk about it. I once had a kid who who loved explosives, right?
Wow.
And initially it was a little uncomfortable for me because it seemed, I almost got that he wanted to like blow stuff up, like was a threat to society.
Right.
And, that was my initial reaction. But then I was like, okay, I'm going to be neutral. I'm going to explore it with this kid. And what I found was that he was genius, that he had studied how to create bombs. And what he really wanted to do was work with the military to develop explosives and learn how to defuse them.
Oh, wow.
So I could have like shut it down, like, oh my God, this is a crazy kid. He wants to blow everything up. Like, stop it. I don't want you doing anything to do with bombs, right? Easily, I could have snapped right into that. But again, after exploration, he wants to be a chemist, and he's really a brilliant kid.
And I guess with the right support, you can also, hopefully, guide them into the possibilities.
There's always possibilities, and at the same time, if it is something that.
Okay, I'm sorry. We had some technical issue, and we were talking about a question that parent had asked, where the son was introduced to the pros and cons of pregnancy in the school. His son is 13 years old, and he started watching it, the YouTube videos on it, and now he's so involved. Some of them are graphic on labor. It's very hard to stop him, even though they stopped the internet for 30 months. They couldn't really get that out of him because he was caught watching it when the internet was back on the phone, and he has also had that conversation with his friends. So how can they help him, stop watching that?
So, our conversation was, number one, you want to insert yourself into whatever's going on, because when you shut something down, you really don't shut it down. They're only going to find it and do it behind your back, right? So you want to insert yourself and be in exploration with them. Because as I said before, you never know if your child is interested in becoming a gynecologist. They might be interested in the human body and, delivery of the amazing miracle of birth. I could see how that could be really intriguing, And so you really want to step into it with your child and not like just react, like freak out on them. Because then you put that wall up, and then they won't talk to you at all about it. They'll just do it somewhere else. And so, my tactic is always to, insert myself into whatever it is that's happening, so that I can be informed and I can, guide and coach and be there for them to ask questions. And if it's something as a parent that you sense might be, sexual, and they might need some additional support, then you might want to look into talking to a therapist. A lot of times in our culture, seeing a therapist is like a bad thing. But therapists are trained. There are special people that are trained to help us, digest and work through challenges that are, inside of our head. And that takes a specific skill. As parents, we don't have that skill, right?
That's true.
So why not reach out to those who do?
I just wanted to add that we actually had done a session on psychotherapy with one of our other experts to break that myth that it's okay to go to the therapist, because sometimes us as individuals are not skilled to have that. But one of the concerns a parent had with that is, if you go to the therapist, are they going to just talk more about what he's watching? Isn't that going to just make him more interested in it? Is it better to just not talk and take it out of the system? Maybe he'll forget about it, or just shut it out, or talk about it more. They were concerned that talking about it more is just going to make him watch it more.
Yeah, I mean, like anything else, right? Just ignoring it is not going to make it go away. Right? Not talking about something is not going to change anything. If that were the case, there would be no racism in America, there would be no sexism in America if we just stopped talking about it, right?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, but the beauty is in having those conversations and understanding, where your child is, what's going on with him. Do I need additional support from someone who's got some expertise to make sure that he is developing in a healthy way, right? And it's not turning into something that's unhealthy. And so as parents, if we're not therapists, we're not equipped to do that. And even if I was a therapist, sometimes, me being a therapist might not be what's good for my child, right? Because I am also mom. So I might need to have someone else step into the role as therapist so I could just be mom.
Yeah. That's true. That makes sense.
Yeah, and again, ignoring it is not going to make it go away. You need to jump in there with your child as long as they need your support and until they are past it. And if they don't get past it, then you have to keep digging and find out what's really underneath that. And again, maybe you are right now creating the next gynecologist that cures cervical cancer. You never know.
Right.
So just be open to possibilities and be open to have any discussion that's needed for your child.
That's true.
Yeah,
that's
and get them the support that they need if your level of expertise, is not where they need to be.
I think that can be very, you're right. Parents have to be open and insert themselves in the middle. And I can at the same time understand for someone who hasn't gone through it, and especially in a culture where you don't talk about these things, it can be a very scary experience.
Absolutely.
Another question, I wanted to bring up a second question, is about, it's from a parent of a 12-year-old girl. My daughter does not have any hobbies or passion in anything. Should I be concerned? She has tried her hand in many activities, but she does not have the perseverance to continue, as these classes are only once a week. And if I ask her to practice, she does not want to adhere. So she's very concerned that her daughter at this age of 12 does not have a passion. She feels like she's not a good parent because she hasn't helped her develop a passion as a result of it. So should she be concerned?
No, I don't think so. At this point, at 12 years old, no. Again, in this culture, we want our kids to be excelling and participating, passionate about stuff, and that's just not where they are. And again, every child is different. Just because someone else's child is going for it, playing every sport, on the honor roll and doing all this amazing stuff, it doesn't mean that that's where your child is going to be.
Yes.
I often look at kids and how they develop, and even the kids that you have the most challenges with, if you look at their life parallel, this kid could be outgoing and have so much going on, and this kid could, be moving along really slow, trying to figure things out. But like 40 years from now, they'll both be at the same place, right? Married with kids and families, working, just like we all do. But everybody's journey is different. And I would just continue to explore and really maybe ask what the child wants to do, because there must be some interest there. And if there isn't any interest there, it's okay. Just keep exposing them to stuff, because she just might not be ready to choose something yet. And again, there might be some other things going on underneath that. And so one of the things that we'll talk about later that Extreme Teen Leaders, our leadership training, XTL 360 does, is really get kids clear, because life is already lifing on them. They're already getting hurt. They're already getting disappointments. And, all of those things begin to like close in around them, right? And put them in this shell. And so you don't really see your child's authentic self because they're already covered with all of this stuff going on in their lives. And so what the training does is it clears all of that out the way so that they have a space to create from. You can't, if your basket is full of stuff, you can't create anything new because there's nowhere to put it in the basket. But once you clear the basket out, you've got all this space to now begin creating, right, and putting new things in.
That's amazing. And I know that you were talking about the program as 3 different modules, where the first module is helping the child understand their blockages, right? What is
Yeah.
them? So just kind of to relate it back to this mom who was asking about the passion, her child, she has helped her, but her child doesn't seem to be interested in anything, exercising, nothing. Child doesn't know that. Seems like she has to continue exposing the child and just keep helping her. But at the same time, having this, if there are any blockages for a child, for example, removing that, removing the fear or whatever fear could be a blockage. And
Absolutely.
add to that, as I'm just, trying to envision your program in a way. So can you talk about that, module 1, the blockages and
Yes. So in the program, we really look at areas that are in the way of them being their greatest self. And so it could be confidence. They could have a total lack of confidence, which prevents them from going out for stuff because they're not confident in their skills,
Yes.
It could be fear, like I'm afraid of what people are going to think about me if I mess up. If you're raised to like be perfect, right? You don't want to go out and try anything because if you're not sure about yourself and you don't know that you know it, then you're not going to be perfect. So I'm not even going to try it. There are a lot of dynamics that are
kids who
going
are
on.
too scared to go try.
That are going on with kids
because of that, because they have been perfect all their life and parents have expected them to be perfect. Now all of a sudden, what if that wasn't perfect? What if I mess up? And I will disappoint my parents and I'll disappoint all those people. And I guess that itself can be a blockage.
Oh, it's a lot of pressure. Yeah. And so in the training, what we do is we free them of that, right? We make them aware of it first, because a lot of times they're not even aware of why they're not going out for stuff and trying stuff or why they're like holding back. But it's always, a couple of areas, fear, really playing it safe, right? Or just, looking good. They want to make sure that they're looking good, and everyone, and parents, as adults, we have that too, right? We want to look good. We want everybody to think that something is wrong with us. And so I'm not going to do anything that's going to cause people to like think of me in a different way. And so there are a lot of different things that could be in the way. So, in that instance, I would, again, jump in there and explore, keep exposing her to different things. And you never know what she's going to like, oh my gosh, like that's it. Like, this is what I love to do. And you just have to continue to open them up to that and put them into programs and help them really get underneath what's in the way.
So let me ask you a question to add to that. Say a child has a lot of passions, because sometimes I feel like, oh, I want to sing, I want to dance, life coach, I want to do this, but I can't do everything. And it's that itself can be pretty, you want it and you can't do it because you cannot be good at everything. So if a child is someone who has a lot of potentials and picks up things properly, quickly, how do you help that child to focus on one thing or find one thing, develop a passion or, for one thing? Like how,
that's one of the wonders of childhood that we often lose as adults, right? That passion, like I want to be a singer, I want to be a dancer, I want to write a book, like all of these things. And you know what? You can do them, right? You might not be able to do them all at the same time, but I love it when people, talk about themselves. And that's one of the reasons why I write my intros the way that I do, right? So this is my intro for when I scope for Perry 10K, right? Which is another group that I scope with. I am all of these things, right? I've sung in a choir before. I love dancing. I'm a happily married wife. I'm a mother of 5 kids. I'm a business professional. I'm a business owner. I'm a motivational speaker. I am all of these things, right? And I get to create constantly. Like every day I get to create who I am. And so for young people, we often like stop the creative process and force them down a path, and what we really need to do is really just support them in discovery and let them be all that they want to be, and not limit them because one day they're going to find something that they're truly passionate about. Out of all the passions, they're going to find something that they're truly passionate about, and they're going to go for it, right? That doesn't mean that they're not all of those other things too.
Right.
They'll find outlets to even, express and, work in those passion areas too. And maybe they'll find a passion that combines multiple passions, but you don't want to like squash them and force them down one path, right?
Yeah.
Just give them the space to create whatever it is that they create.
That's true. I mean, I've learned that, and still learning, that there's just so much potential. You never know
Absolutely.
You're going to end up being, because I don't know that this is what I was going to do. I grew up, I became a computer scientist. I did coding. Luckily, I'm in America, a land of opportunities. I hated working as a coder, and I just couldn't see myself going ahead. But hey, I had to pick a passion. I had to pick a degree. I had to do it. And that's what you do. And I did it. And I work in the financial services industry. And within like 2 years, I switched because I knew that I could not excel in that. I just don't have a passion for it. It's just as painful. And then when I had kids, I switched again because everything changed and I didn't want to do what I was doing. And now I'm here exploring emotional intelligence with you, with other parents, and I love it. And I feel like this is what I want to do. And to be honest, I feel like, yes, I always loved to dance and it was sort of my passion, but I never really never became rich with it, but can I still become rich with it? I think, yes, I think if I want to, I can go in it and explore it. I have that positive, feeling. And I have to thank my kids for it because they teach you so much and they teach you how you want to be because that's how you want to see them. So for me, I feel like I've really learned more about my passion at this age in my 30s.
Yeah, and like a passion isn't always the thing that, generates income, right?
Yeah.
And so when I teach leadership, I often, I love the arts, and I am a huge proponent of STEM, which is science, technology, engineering, math, and even STEAM, right? They throw the arts in there. I'm a huge proponent of those disciplines. And so I often try to, open that up for kids because they really don't know the possibilities in those fields. And, what I told my kids were, listen, there's a lot of things that you can do in life, but you know that you need to create income for yourself so that you can live and so that you can explore all these passions, right? I'm able to do what I do because I went into a field that paid very well, and now I get to do extreme team leaders and all the other things that I do because I've got income generating that supports me in that. And so you do want to coach your child to make sure that they are going along a path that will allow them to be independent so that they're not living with you for the rest of their lives, but you also want to encourage them to explore their passions, right? So yes, go to school, computer science is a great discipline, right? You'll definitely make great income, but also explore these other things that you love too, because I truly believe that when you're going for it and then you're passionate about something, the income will come. Right. The income will come. Right. And if it's something that's doesn't generate income, still explore it. Like do dance classes, do something that allows you to express yourself in that passion, even if it doesn't generate income for you, because you will have something over here or something over there that's generating income for you. Right. Yeah.
And it just helps you, I think, no matter what you do, I feel like I've learned and I've grown. So tomorrow, if I do decide to generate an income, all the skills that I've learned from all those areas,
absolutely,
it's going to help because these are what you say, soft skills, life skills, right? Like how you interact and how you think, and it has helped me make a positive person. I know that this is not going to generate that much income, but at the same time, I know that, it's okay. Like I'm more like it's made me more of a positive person because I know that I'm learning something from it, which if I focus on just creating income, these skills will help me get there.
Yeah, and there's so many resources out there now that help you to monetize your passions. And on social media, you'll see a bunch of people on Periscope. I know a number of people in that community that coach people on how to monetize your passions. So it's quite doable. There's resources out there. So whatever your child is exploring, like give them the space to explore and explore with them. You might find something else about yourself that you didn't know, or that you've been suppressing, you know, and it could be something that you
like
do
now
together.
I'm learning piano with my 7-year-old.
Absolutely. Like that's one of my passions, right? I want to learn how to play piano. You know, I've had my kids learn, and that's something that's going to be on my to-do list. It's on my bucket list, right? To learn how to play piano, and I want to speak Spanish fluently. So
that's true. Exploring with your kids it's an excellent way actually to learn things.
It is,
and
and
figure out.
you generate creativity. And again, even in our professions, no matter what our professions, employers want creative people. They want people that are going to develop solutions to
that I can vouch for. That's definitely.
You know, exactly. Like what's the next biggest app? You know, what's the next biggest, you know, solution that's going to solve our transportation issues? You know, they're looking for creative people. And if we as parents squash the creative process early on, you know, we're really doing a disservice to our world, right? Because we want to create creative, innovative young people.
Yes. That's great. I don't have any more questions, and I'm looking at a lot of other parents have joined. You know, if you want to take time to talk about like the modules, you know, and
sure.
we can because I know we talked about module 1 where you help the teens figure out what their blockages are.
Yeah.
And then from there, how do we go about?
Yeah. So Extreme Teen Leaders, the XTL 360 program is a 3-part leadership development program for teens. And in module 1, we created exercises, games, they work together, they give each other feedback, and they go through all of these different processes, right? And we create a safe space for them to explore and to try on new ways of being, right? Because a lot of times the way that they're being in their life now, some things are working for them and some things aren't working for them, right? As parents, we can very easily notice the things that aren't working for them, what habits they've created, what beliefs they've created about themselves, you know, that's not serving them. And so in discovery, what we do is we put them through these exercises and these games that help illuminate what those areas are that they get to work on. And we don't tell them what they are. We put them in these games and scenarios so that they figure it out for themselves. You know, there's one thing about being a great coach isn't about telling people what to do and mentoring and, you know, giving consulting. You know, it's about asking powerful questions that allow you to figure out the answer for yourself.
That's true.
That way, it's more powerful for you and you feel empowered, you know? And so it's all about empowerment, about empowering young people to identify the areas in their lives that they need to work on. And then, you know, say, okay, this is working for me. This is not working, right? I'm going to keep doing these things that are working, but the things that are not working, I'm going to look at some other possibilities and make some different choices so that I'm continuously moving myself forward. That's part 1.
That's great.
And at the end of part 1, they feel so elated. They're so full of love. I mean, the teens that they're in this training with become like their best friends and their community, and they're all going for, you know, some big things. They've got vision for the world and what they want to create in the world. And I was just listening to them on the phone last week, and I was crying on the phone because I was hearing them talk about their vision for the world and what they wanted to create. You know, they wanted to create connection. They wanted to create trust. They wanted to create peace. And I'm like, wow, these are 14-year-olds, 15-year-olds. And I'm like crying on the phone, like, oh my gosh, they're getting it. So then part 2 is called Unleashed, right? We named it that because that is exactly what we want to do. We want to unleash all of this goodness in the world. And we want to empower them to be like the incredible human beings that they are. You know, I always believe that they're perfect, whole, and complete. They already are leaders. They're not our leaders of tomorrow. They're our leaders today, right?
Right.
And so I want them to have a voice. And anything that was in the way that they discovered in the discovery module, the part 1, we take, it's like they're in a box, like they've been living in a box.
Right.
And we take a sledgehammer to that box and crack it open so that they can, like, again, just be unleashed and come out authentic, powerful, making a difference in every domain of their life, with their families, their friends, getting clearer on their vision. And then we give them tools all along the way so that they can actually use this in their life every day. And then they get coaching. After part 1 and after part 2, they have coaches, they have group calls, so it's not like a one-on-one thing. They're set up into small groups, and then they have a coach, and then they meet weekly and they talk about the challenges that they're facing, and our coaches really encourage them to step out of whatever is holding them back. So again, they're practicing everything that they learned in part 1 and part 2. And then in part 3, Generation Lead, this is where we're like putting the stamp on it. And so everything that they've learned in part 1 and in part 2, they take all of that and they start implementing it into their lives. That's great. They have an amazing support system, right? The GL teams, Generation Lead, they're a team. So everyone in that training is part of that team. So we have GL 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They're all numbered. And they support each other. GL happens over three months, 1 weekend a month. The first weekend, they come together as a team and they do a ropes challenge where they really create team among themselves. They do leadership activities as well. The second weekend, they come in and they, the first weekend, they're setting goals in every domain of their life. And during the first weekend and the second weekend, that time in between there, they're getting coaching. They're meeting as a team each week. They're, making weekly promises or weekly goals, and they're tracking. It's about results.
Yes.
Am I having happen what I said I wanted to have happen? And if I didn't, what's missing? What do I get to add? And then also what's working? Because I'm sure they're going to be accomplishing something. So it's just a celebration of what's working in their life and then what they get to add.
Yeah, this is great because, you find the blockages, you then find the power, you remove the blockages, unleash the power, but then you have a support all the way to keep practicing.
Absolutely.
Because sometimes when you practice, there is a confusion, you fall off track, but then there is a support group to help them clarify whatever confusion and get back on track.
Let me tell you, it's an amazing thing. Like even now, like we just did a part 1. And there's the part 1 graduates are now building the next part 1, which is in February. And they're taking each other on. It's amazing how team is built in this environment. Like they start noticing how each other are being. And they'll call each other out. I'm experiencing you as like, standoffish, like what's going on. And they start interacting in that way, like, wow, you're really showing up powerful today, and you're inspiring me. They give each other feedback. And so even myself as a facilitator and a coach, sometimes I could just sit back, and what I want to have happen is for them to support themselves, and have them hold each other accountable. Well, you said you were going to be here at 5 o'clock, you got here at 5:01. What was more important?
Right.
And really like challenging them to step it up to the next level and step right into their greatness. And so they have a second weekend where they check in. Second weekend is like a check-in. Okay, I've made all these goals. How am I tracking along? Am I hitting them? And it's a big team, okay, what's missing as a team? What do we get to add as a team? So that everybody is succeeding and winning. Because in part 2, if I'm winning and everyone else is not winning, then I'm really not winning.
That's
like, what kind of leader do I have to be so that I'm winning and my entire team is winning too?
Right.
That's what they get to learn. And then they start doing stuff out in the community. The third weekend, they do a community service project together. And then we celebrate their graduation. And then they get to come back and they get to staff and pour into, other youth leaders that are coming into the program. And there are also advanced courses for them afterwards. So it's really a complete program, and it's really pretty amazing.
That's great because there's it's not just stopping after like a weekend, something, it keeps going on, and there is a support group. And, we have, you're offering a special for our audience for module 1 for $275, and there are other coaching specials as well. We will put this in the group so folks can see if they want to take advantage of it. The program is based in North Carolina.
Yes.
Morrisville, North Carolina?
Yes, Morrisville.
Okay. So I'm just, just so the folks are aware of that, we have, Tamrah is offering a special to our group for Module 1, the one where you find out your blockages. Teens will find out their blockages. For $275, it's like a weekend, 3-day long program. The retail price is $475. And she is located in North Carolina. The program will be, the teaching is happening in Morrisville, North Carolina. So if you're local, you can take advantage of this. We will post this along with other specials that Tamrah is offering on our Facebook page. Yeah. You can take advantage of that.
I've got one more thing too. Yeah. And in these trainings, there are specifically in part 2, we also have parent involvement.
Oh yes, that's a great one. I remember it.
We've got some processes where parents get to come together, where they share with other parents, and they get to share with other kids that are not their kids, so that kids get to see like 2 perspectives, not only from their own parents, but other kids' parents.
Yes.
And it's really powerful to see them come together. And we do a forum where we've got parents on one side, teens on the other side, and they each get to ask questions, and anyone from any other side can answer the questions. So it's really dynamic, and there is parent interaction as well and involvement.
Yes, I think that's great, because then parents get to see a different perspective of things, not from their team, not as a parent, but also someone to help, and I think it's learning experience for parents as well, because sometimes your kids don't open up to you, but if you're in that program setting and other teams are opening up, they are empowered to open up, and it helps parents as well. So
absolutely. And we've got teen staff in there too, and they always go first and model for the shy teens that are in there.
Yeah.
And to see them come out of their shells is pretty amazing.
It sounds like a great program. So
yeah.
Thank you so much, Tamrah. Thank you for your time. We really, really appreciate it. And I hope
very welcome.
We'll be in touch and we'll talk more. Hopefully we can do some more things for our audience with you.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much for your time. Really.
You're very welcome. You're very welcome. Thank you. Have an amazing day.
You too. Take care. Bye.